Seems like today all that you see is violence in movies and sex on TV.
But what of those good old-fashioned values
on which we used to rely? Lucky there's a family guy. Lucky there's a man who positively can do all the things to make us laugh and cry. He's our family guy. Da 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 da, on which we used to rely. Oh, lucky there's a family guy. Lucky there's a man who positively can do all the things to make us laugh and cry. He's our family guy.
I missed the song. I wanted to hear that song. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to Adrian and the Revolving Band, Adrian Emberley and the Revolving Band. You guys were great. We love giving local musicians a chance to come out and be part of these events. My name is Greg Epstein. I'm the Humanist chaplain at Harvard. And on behalf of the entire organization, I want to just say we're so delighted to have Seth MacFarlane as our 2011 Harvard Humanist of the Year. So, where's the one? Yeah, good. All right. So, Seth is the creative force behind The Family Guy, behind American Dad, behind The Cleveland Show, the stats, the 4 Emmy Awards, the 7 nominations, the impending revivals of The Flintstones and the seminal, right? It's got it, yeah. And the seminal science series, Carl Sagan's Cosmos, which is going to be remade on Fox, right? Bringing that to the Fox audience. #1 jazz album, and his first film in post-production, which he's got to rush back to the set for tomorrow. So I will say more about Seth in a second, but I want to say a little bit about us as an organization, especially because Seth very generously agreed to have us sell tickets tonight as a fundraiser for our organization to support the idea of building humanist community. That's what we do. And, a few years ago, I think it's pretty easy to say a few people had ever heard of the concept of humanist community, let alone a humanist chaplain. But we've had a crazily busy last few years, and we now have a dynamic organization that has a wonderful staff, that boasts I see a student leader over there who's currently a humanist student leader who's president of the Interfaith Council. We had a recent graduate who led a humanist student group in bringing almost $100,000 of supplies, all marked as humanist donations to survivors of the earthquake in Haiti, at the most needy survivors at the right after the quake. We have weddings and funerals and naming ceremonies that take place right here in this building and in chapels around the city. And we have a growing community that meets every single week during the school year in Harvard Square. You're all welcome. You see the events listed. We are now preparing to help dozens of other groups around the country who want to start similar communities to do that. And we're going to be working with them as part of a new project that we're going to call the Humanist Community Project. We're going to let you all know more details about that in the coming week or two. It's a brand new thing, but we are essentially an organization that takes common sense ideas, reason, we like reason and critical thinking, we use science to understand the universe, We use the golden rule and basic human compassion, well, hopefully plus a sense of humor, to figure out how to relate to one another. But we take all of that and we give it an uncommon spin. We offer a secular alternative to the congregations and communities that often make such a difference in people's lives. Now, that brings me back to Seth MacFarlane. Seth MacFarlane, too, takes common sense, reasonable ideas, great stories and characters, and a dirty but mighty stream of consciousness, and he gives them a unique, well, uniquely raunchy spin that left our most recent awardee, the brilliant British comedian and writer Stephen Fry, calling MacFarlane an authentic genius. MacFarlane frequently tackles religious, irreligious, and even deeply existential themes in his work. He can reach people in a way that those of us who are too serious, myself very much included, never could. He uses laughter to make the couch potato Peter Griffin in all of us, watching just for the shit jokes and the TNA on Gumble to Gumble, Beach Justice, sit up, take notice, and come back relaxed and ready to watch again next week when maybe, just maybe, Meg will ask, what is there then to believe in without God? Where do the answers come from? And maybe Brian the dog will respond, well, that's all part of the human experience. It's what we're here to find out. And I bet you that the real answer to the nature of our existence is going to be more unimaginably amazing than we can possibly conceive, unquote. It's a powerful point in an episode our humanist student groups watch every year and discuss, and it's set around boob jokes. Now, I don't want to say that he makes you open your mouth with laughter and then just when you're paying attention or not paying attention, he shoves the humanism in, but oh, I really did make that joke, didn't I? It must be catching. Okay, he's managed to offend almost all of his viewers at one time or another, very much, including myself. He's consistently used his art to mock and jab at every demographic, political, ethnic, religious, and sexual group, including his own, including mine. But he's included everyone equally in his universe of mockery. Quahog, he's created in Quahog a place where everyone must question who they are and what they do. Now, he's made a huge effort. He's stopped a ton of projects. He's cost himself a ton of other opportunities just to be here with us this weekend. He flew all the way out. He's got to fly right back. He's got to go back to the set, the whole thing. But it's the same dedication and compassion that he's shown for a lot of more maybe obvious causes, gay rights, animal rights, homelessness. He's worked tirelessly for them. And maybe now we can show him that it might not have to take 200 years for a humanist or atheist or non-religious movement to catch on, as he once suggested to Bill Maher that it might. Now, transforming pop culture and making it more humanistic is one of the biggest things we can do about the world around us. That's what tonight is all about. That's what Seth does. So, let's please give a huge round of applause for our 2011 Harvard Humanist of the Year, Seth MacFarlane.
This is cool. This looks like a cable ace. This is kind of hilarious doing this in a church. Just gonna take communion here. Sorry, fella. First off, I would like to thank God for this award. And in the event that there is no God, I would like to thank the Humanist chaplaincy of Harvard. Yes, great bunch. I gotta get through all this with this big Hitler eagle right in front of me. What is that? Why is that there? And he's kind of looking back at me, like, but not quite. Like, all right, I'm watching you, buddy. This really is an honor. I should note that I actually also put myself up for a Humanist award from Brown University, but that was like my safety school, so. So now that I have this, I don't need those jerks. So in the words of Governor Rick Perry, the hell with Brown University humanists. Oh wait, no, actually, you know what? I think his exact words were all those godless brown people can go fuck themselves. I think that was, so I'm not quite right about that. I hope this award serves as a profound lesson to the kids out there that if you just don't believe in something and just never ever stop not believing, there's nothing you can't accomplish. I have not been back to Harvard since class day a few years back, actually, but I remain very amused by this Harvard-Yale business. Harvard and Yale, will you two just fuck already? Here's a joke you've probably heard. What do a Harvard student and a Yale student have in common? They both got into Yale. You've probably heard that one, right? You do realize, though, that this is a rivalry that no one else on the face of the earth cares about. It's like Donald Trump and Rosie O'Donnell. Everybody hates you both just the same. You doing sign language? Is that what's going on down there? So no jokes about anal sex. Certainly no jokes about pantomiming fellatio. Oh, this will be fun. That Donald Trump, Rosie O'Donnell joke, by the way, I got that from a friend of mine who went to Harvard. Do you know how I know he went to Harvard? Because I've known him for 30 seconds. But I'm not here to make jokes about Harvard. I guess I'm sort of here to make jokes about Jesus, right? And I can do that and still sleep soundly because I am a humanist. And I say humanist and not atheist because to me, the term atheist, aside from being unfairly stained by our culture with a negative stigma that is virtually beyond repair, is a word that defines itself from the ground up on religious terms. You're either religious or non-religious. You are theist or non-theist or atheist. That's like saying you are either white or non-white. It begins in a very warped place. Therefore, instead of saying you're either an atheist or believer, it's probably better to say you're either a humanist or like a batshit enthusiast would be. Now, I do not intend this talk to be 10 minutes of religion bashing. It's probably going to be more like 12 to 15 minutes. And ironically, yes, you heard it here, it is true that the wisest atheists are only 99.9% atheist, as due respect for the scientific method compels them to reserve judgment until concrete evidence is obtained one way or the other, if we're being responsible. Though everything we know about the universe thus far points to the absence of a conscious, intelligent driving force, the only driving force we have detected is gravity. But it certainly goes without saying that religion has done its fair share of damage to the human capacity for critical thinking in our society. When you think about the fact that so many key scientific discoveries that came about during the Renaissance, including a rudimentary understanding of the orbits of the nearer planets, the awareness of the solar system and how it must be heliocentric, the idea that the Earth cannot be flat, had already been conceived and explored by ancient Ionian scientists and mathematicians. 2,200 years ago, Eratosthenes, beginning with the curious observation that a stick pointing upward at noon in Syene, Egypt, cast no shadow, while at the same moment, 800 kilometers north, a stick in Alexandria cast a distinct shadow, was able to correctly deduce the circumference of the Earth 2,200 years ago. The enormous body of knowledge collected in these early Greek discoveries was, however, harshly suppressed by the church throughout the 1,000-year period we call the Dark Ages, and had to be, in effect, rediscovered a millennium later in the 16 and 1700s. And just think, had the church not risen to power, and had science progressed from its ancient Greek beginnings, as it should have during that dark period, we could be 1,000 years more advanced than we are now. Cures for every disease imaginable, spacecraft able to visit another star, the ability to receive a call with AT&T Wireless. The Quagmire Show would be on the air by now. Giggity. And it could all have been possible had those 1,000 years of dogmatic fervor not clogged the pipes. Pope, you owe me an android body. 2011 is a strange time to be a humanist. We, as a species, have never had a richer understanding of the world around us. We know the rough age of the cosmos in which we inhabit. We've unraveled many of the mysteries of our own genetic makeup, and we have used the knowledge of DNA to launch over 60 CSI and Law & Order spin-offs. Programs that arm us with the knowledge, for the first time in human history, to never ejaculate at a crime scene. We may have discovered neutrinos that move faster than the speed of light. That is, until the gay guy from Airplane plugs the particle accelerator back in and says, "Just kidding." We know how to find a human being anywhere on the planet and then send a guy to kill him. We're about to launch a spacecraft to Mars that will send back not just photographs, but actual moving digital images from that world. We know that if you were able to stand on a flat surface on the planet Venus, that is, without getting pulverized by its atmospheric pressure or cooked by its 900-degree surface temperatures, if you were able to simply stand on a flat plane somewhere on that planet, it would look to your eyes as if you were standing in a big curved bowl, because the light around you is actually being distorted by the crushing pressure of an atmosphere 92 times that of Earth. You will not find these things in the Bible. Maybe in Revelation you'll find these things. No, these were discoveries made by inquisitive, clever, hardworking human beings who were striving to understand the universe in which they found themselves. At the same time, our supposedly advanced society clings to these bizarre and downright primitive superstitions. We believe in astrology, psychics, faith healing, angels. We persist in shoehorning faith and irrationality into our modern society. And the result is this weird hybrid of technology and mythology that's basically the movie Krull. I don't think we want to be Krull. Every presidential administration begins with a prayer. Every legislative session begins with a prayer. When people are really drunk and bent over a toilet because they think they might puke, but they're not 100% sure, there's almost always a prayer in there. Nowadays, even priests are taking time out from their fondling to talk about Jesus. How did our priorities get so out of whack? Well, what should give pause to the faith-minded individual is that a recent discovery in quantum physics, a comparatively young branch of science, which has nonetheless passed every single test of mathematical validity that we've thrown at it, has determined that the universe did not necessarily require a creator. It may literally have popped into existence from nothing. In other words, it's not God's fault that you showed your tits to Joe Francis. Now, how is that possible, you ask? How does something come from nothing? Nothing ever could. Well, we've seen it with our own eyes in particle accelerators in physics labs, subatomic particles that disappear in one place and reappear in another. Like when Muammar Gaddafi disappeared from encroaching rebel forces and then weeks later resurfaced to marry Shannon Tweed. It's a Gene Simmons reference, kids. We've also observed instances of a single subatomic particle that literally exists in two places at the same time, like how Justin Bieber can be touring around the world and simultaneously be in the closet. That one you get. Sodomy. It's a biblical word. We did not seek out this precise knowledge. We discovered it through observation and experimentation. And that's one of the fundamental differences between religious belief and the arena of scientific study, which of course is more humanist friendly. Religion is notorious for conceiving an idea and then trying to make it true, either by propaganda or sometimes by force, while science makes a discovery and then immediately sets about trying to disprove it, just to be really sure it's correct before everybody makes idiots of themselves. With the religious, when it comes to asking tough questions about their own faith, the furthest many Christians will go is maybe skimming the Da Vinci Code. The most you'll get out of some Jews is the quiet admonition that maybe Jackie Mason isn't funny. And behind closed doors, you may get some Muslims to admit that if they see a Muhammad cartoon, they probably won't turn into the Hulk. Now, I have religious friends. I have very close religious friends whom I like and respect. I have great respect for Jimmy Carter, who is a self-professed born-again Christian. But it's disheartening for the future when you see so many of these reflex Christians responding to complicated scientific theories with simplistic bumper stickers like, "We did not evolve from monkeys." And in some instances, they're right. For example, the cast of Jersey Shore are still monkeys. Oh, hang on one sec. Idea for a reality show. Kate Blanchett, John Hamm, and the cast of Jersey Shore all living in a house together. The show will be called John and Kate Plus Apes. There are religious folk who are able to balance their beliefs with an openness to scientific progress and intellectual evolution. There would be probably too many contradictions in that lifestyle for my taste, but many people do it successfully. The problem is that they're in the minority, or at the very least, the vocal minority in America. The rest live by what believers describe proudly as blind faith. But blindness is not a fair representation. If someone is blind, their other senses take over to verify the information and then report back that, yes, I can hear a car coming, or indeed, I can feel the staircase railing. What these believers in question are actually demanding is more like Helen Keller faith. Wherein if you don't understand your world, you just moan and you throw shit at it until it goes away. Or until an authority figure takes you by the hand and forces you to comply with the way everyone else does things. Despite that, all we've learned about human social structure from anthropology and even, yes, from cooperative animal interaction, godless animals, we continue to be told that religion and theism are essential to morality and to ethics, that without faith, people turn into druggy, feral, rapey monsters masturbating at each other. First of all, if that were true, this would be a much better event than it actually is. But regardless, that entire premise is undermined by the fact that statistically, violent crime is much more common in states where people are more devout. And our own Christian nation has much higher murder rates than you will find in the secular nations of Western Europe. It can be argued that religion was the first institution to canonize morality, to put it in tidy, consumer-friendly packages like the Ten Commandments and Saved by the Bell. But morality did not originate with religion, and it most definitely exists independent of it. But like I said, I don't want to just stand up here and badmouth our religious friends. I also want to badmouth our religious enemies. Marcus Bachmann, holy shit. Pray the gay away. I don't get that. If you don't like True Blood, just don't watch it. Just what the hell happened to Marcus Bachmann? As a kid, did his dad give him his first baseball bat rectally? What? What happened to this guy? And more importantly, why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we cling to outdated dogma? One theory is that when we're children, we see adults as infallible oracles of right and wrong, of good and evil. They seem to know everything. They have all the answers to our questions. They're these all-powerful protectors, and in a sense, they're gods. And then we grow up to be their age, and we realize, oh man, they're just as clueless, they're just as fucked up as we were. But that innate, desperate craving for guidance is as strong as ever within us, even into adulthood. We still long for that higher power to tell us right from wrong, so we invent God to fill that hole. My friend Ann Druyan, the wife of the late Carl Sagan, has another theory, and that is the orphan analogy. Because we still don't have complete, definitive answers to all of our questions regarding the origins of life on Earth, we are, in a sense, orphans who don't know exactly where we came from. And just as orphans often feel subconscious, misplaced guilt over the idea that they must have somehow done something wrong to be abandoned, we create fabricated accounts of our own supposed inadequacies, most notably the expulsion from Eden. I think it's time we drop the guilt, though. We're not wicked, evil children. We didn't all go to Yale. By the way, here's where one of you should say, Yale's our rival. Thank you, core Family Guy fans, for getting that reference. Religion has had a good run. The stories, though, are starting to feel repetitive, and they never make it clear which members of the family can understand Jesus. As a species, though, maybe we even needed religion at one time, back when we thought farts were magic. But now maybe it's time to realize that we simply don't require an all-powerful God to find beauty in the cosmos or to create peace and justice here on our own planet. The Hubble and Kepler telescopes have revealed far more wondrous visions of reality than anything that the Bible could begin to describe. Decency, reason, and humanism at its best have elevated our species to lofty altitudes of self-discovery and awareness far higher than those to which dogma could ever propel us. Just think of how far we've come in the growth of our species. Think of the art and the music that we've created. Think of the colossal advances in transportation and communications. Just imagine telling the founding fathers that their young republic would someday have an ambitious, far-reaching space program for a short while. It seems at times that we can do anything. We can produce clean, renewable energy to power the planet. We're not doing it, but we can, and that ought to count for something. We made John Travolta a star. And then we took it back again. And then we made him a star again, and then we took it back again. We created a life-changing worldwide network of computer information sharing so we could more conveniently and swiftly distribute porn. Even just 100 years ago, if you wanted to see a lady get fucked by a donkey, you either had to keep a place in Mexico, or you had to own a donkey and then invest years systematically dismantling your daughter's self-esteem. I think I just got an aw shit from that corner of the room. This was worth a trip. 2011 is a strange time to be a humanist, but it's also an important time to be a humanist. America, as a culture, is allowing itself to descend back into the dark realms of superstition that so many visionary men and women of science have devoted their lives to pull us away from. So the decision is now ours. As Woody Allen put it, given the choice between air conditioning and the Pope, I'll take air conditioning. Or in other words, instead of praying for rain, I say we invent a weather machine. Get on it, Harvard. Thank you.
Does anybody have a defibrillator? Okay. So we're gonna do some Q&A, right? And we're gonna yes, okay. We're gonna remind you that a question is, in the words of some of you who've said this before, a short interrogative statement that ends in a question mark. Yes. Okay. So John, you ready? All right. Come on up. We don't have a ton of time for Q&A, but I am very curious to see what will emerge from the time that we have. So, we have a couple student questions first. And anybody else can come up and ask a question? I think you scared the crap out of them.
Yeah, sorry, gang.
Let me just see what I wrote down here. Hi, Seth. Thank you so much for coming to speak tonight. My name is Lester, and I was surprised by your reaction to the South Park Muhammad controversy last year. Yeah, you seemed ambivalent about whether the image of Muhammad should have been censored on TV. Given that you have animated many religious figures, would you be comfortable depicting an image of Muhammad in Family Guy?
First of all, thank you for speaking from the heart.
Welcome.
That's a hard one to give a blanket response to. The joke would have to be, I mean, look, we consider ourselves equal opportunity offenders. So, yeah, I mean, I would be comfortable with that. As with whether it's Islam or Judaism or Christianity, the joke does have to be funny. You can't just get up there and say, hey, you guys suck. There has to be some sort of satirical element. There has to be some sort of commentary. Otherwise, you're just kind of lazy. But I mean, you know, that was an interesting situation because there were death threats on those guys, and you know, you have to. I mean, there was an instance a while back where I believe it was a show called Millennium on Fox, and I remember hearing from the legal department at Fox that they had advised the writers of that show not to do a joke about the Scientologists because the retribution would just not be worth it. With a show like Family Guy or a show like South Park or a show like The Simpsons, I think you kind of have to, you know, suck it up and acknowledge the fact that you are there to satirize religion in all forms. You're there to satirize all aspects of our culture. Religion cannot be exempt. And yeah, I think we would. I'd probably wear a suit of armor for a month walking down the street, but you know, yeah, I think if the joke is funny enough, yeah. Oh, come on.
Good evening, Seth. My name's Charlotte, and I'm a freshman at the college. And
Oh, how the devil are you?
Oh yeah, sorry, 30
Wait,
seconds.
don't say
I go to
anymore.
Harvard.
Brought up in Hounslow, mother Welsh.
I'm not English. I'm Scottish. Damn it, get it
Oh,
right.
boy, well, that's...
If you're gonna mock me, at least do it for the right country.
Boy, is my face red, huh?
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm an ally with the QSA here, so I'd like to ask a question about your activities for gay rights. And you've said in the past that you're interest in gay rights was sparked when a family member brought up the question of whether homosexuality can be cured. So I was wondering, given that for many members in the gay community, the opinion and support of their family and friends is vitally important, as is totally understandable, what do your family think of your activities as an ally, and have their beliefs and your interactions with them changed as a result of that?
Well, not especially. I mean, the members of my family who are less progressive remain less progressive, and the ones who are, have always been progressive remain progressive. That was certainly a catalyst. That was kind of a significant bit of awareness on my part that somebody in my own family was capable of being that myopic. And you always sort of, for me, I always sort of thought that was the kind of thing that happened in the deep South, but maybe nowhere else. And sure enough, here it was in my own family, and it was disheartening and disturbing. But it was, in a lot of ways, the most significant part of a thought process that have been going on for a long time. I've always been somebody who is, I have no patience for bigotry of any kind, and I do feel like, aside from the fact that it's immoral, when I look at things like Prop 8 in California, the liberal state of California, and Prop 8, which got passed a while back, that not only were its supporters unethical, but they were engaging in what is ultimately going to be a futile endeavor. Every civil rights battle, I feel like, historically, is eventually won. And if you oppose, if you favor something like Prop 8, 50 years from now, you're going to be the one who goes, oh yeah, well yeah, back then, yeah, I was kind of on that side, yeah. And you're going to look pretty silly. And it's amazing that we can never see those things happening right under our noses. It always takes time. And I kind of feel like, well, let's learn from history. Let's have this one be the one that we go, okay, all right, you know what, this is not going to be like, black people in the 40s and 50s. Let's see it. Let's see the bigotry going on as it's happening and do something about it now instead of waiting 50 years from now and going, oh, well, it took time. But as far as my own family is concerned, it's old Republicans are hard to break. Because there was a time economically when it made sense to be a Republican. In the 50s, it made sense to be a Republican. It made sense to be conservative, at least economically, and they just have a hard time breaking out of it. So I wish I could say that my own activities had changed that, but I don't see that yet.
Well, thank you very much.
Hi, thanks for coming. It's awesome. Anyway, I'm Chelsea. I'm a senior here. So in your talk, you talked a lot about how religion has kept people back, kept humanity back. But I'm wondering, even if just based on the numbers, how much atheists can accomplish without cooperating with the religious. So I was hoping to ask you what role, if any, you think interaction and cooperation and maybe even respect between atheists and religious people might be important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a pragmatic question. It's a good question. Carl Sagan was a great one for that philosophy. It's like religion is not going anywhere. It's here to stay for a while. So we do need to work with these people, and that's I find surprising amounts of common ground with religious friends of mine. I'm able, people who are very, and when I say religious, I mean very religious. People who are very religious and very comfortable in their religiosity. Every time I say that word, I feel like I sound like Don King, but that is a word, right? Religiosity.
It's a word.
And they're okay with open discussion because they're comfortable. And I think though there are a lot of those people out there, and one of the areas that Sagan recommended that we ally ourselves with them is environmentalism. You know, we all have an interest in preserving the planet. For us, it's for practical reasons. For the religious, you could make the argument, well, this is God's earth, and you want to see it preserved as much as we do. We both have the same goal. We have different motivations. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, at least right now. You know, I don't know, we allied ourselves with the Russians in World War II, and then we kind of went at it afterwards. Let's do that.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Molly. I was watching Family Guy since before I was allowed to. And I'm going to ask the first Family Guy related question because I'm a dork and I embrace it. We know that Peter's Irish
So am
Catholic.
I, it's okay.
Okay, good. We know that Peter's Irish Catholic. We know that Lois is kind of Jewish, kind of not really embracing it. We know that Brian is an atheist. What about the rest of the family?
I don't know, man.
I was thinking-
I mean, Meg, we did an episode, you know, actually it was the episode where Brian revealed he was an atheist. You know, Meg was kind of searching, you know, the kids are kind of searching, I suppose, for their own identity, which is as it should be. I mean, if I don't know, if I married a fundamentalist Christian, and I got to figure it'd be really great angry sex. If I married a fundamentalist Christian, I would, you know, I'd want my kid to be exposed to both sides of the equation. I wouldn't want to keep the kid from church. I'd want to expose him to everything, and then allow him or her to make their own decision. Because for a humanist, I suppose, to unscrew his kid's head and just pour all the bullshit in, as Bill Maher says, is really just as much of a crime. You know, so you're inhibiting critical thinking from the other side. We can be guilty of it as much as they can, and you know, I think that it's important to, you know, if we're looking at Family Guy as an example, yeah, Meg is a good example. She doesn't know. She hasn't figured it out yet, and you know, assuming that the show goes on for another 10 years, maybe we'll get to that. And Stewie, I don't know. Stewie's just.
Listen, I'm just out to take Herman Cain's 999 plan and just turn it upside down, you know.
I just really wanted to say quickly also that you are really the only reason why my boyfriend and I are still together today. Because
Really?
if it wasn't for the stupid, crazy humor on Family Guy that he can say, it cancels out anything else that he says.
Wow. So your relationship is built on.
So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll take bets on how long that's going to last. From my experience, it takes a little more than that, but.
Will you sing for us?
Here? Oh, come on. Since I can't give her a slap, I need a Jew. There you are.
Thank you for the last 12 years of laughs.
You're very welcome.
Well, thank you for a provocative and intelligent and entertaining presentation. I can't tell you how excited I was when they told me Matt Groening was going to be here. No, this is an open question, really, so answer it however you please. I'm really curious as to how you conceive of the relationship between like satire and comedy and, say, social change, something like this. Is it all just a barrel of laughs and is it all fun, or does something like Family Guy or The Cleveland Show or something like this really serve a social purpose? If so, how do you think about it?
That's a tough one because you're kind of grabbing at mist to answer that question. It's like saying why is something funny, and there's no overall blanket answer for that. I mean, I don't know, off the top of my head, just with no prior thought, I would say maybe satire takes some sort of, I mean, satire is a branch of comedy. Satire is a tributary of comedy. I wouldn't call a shit joke satire. I would call it comedy, but not satire. I mean, I feel like satire by definition has to make a point of some kind, has to comment on something culturally or socially. It's a hard one. I've been asked this before. Why are certain things funny, and how do you classify them? At the end of the day, it's different for every person, and it's we govern ourselves in the Family Guy writers' room and on all the shows by just what makes us laugh, and sometimes we don't really question it until months and months later when the show airs. Why is this funny? It just is. It's just we're either laughing or we're not. And it's I don't know. I look at Woody Allen's take on all that business in the 70s. Not so much anymore, unfortunately, but back when he was doing movies like Annie Hall, was very much disdainful of that. The intellectualization of comedy, and there was a sense of dismissiveness. Why does it matter? If it's funny and you're laughing, sure, you can analyze it academically, but to what end? So if I had to quantify it, I would say, yeah, satire makes a point. Comedy is comedy begat satire. Yeah, that's about as incoherent as I've ever been. So, sorry.
Well, thank you very much for coming here, first of all. As the bald gentleman before you said, you offend a lot of people naturally, whether they be Muslims, Christians.
You look like you could be like the Greek fraternity guy who sits at the council and judges the nerds.
I don't know whether I should be offended by that or not.
Please don't beat me up. What's your question?
So you offend a lot of people, and I'm just curious, what's the most creative and eloquent death threat you've received?
I don't, I've never actually seen a death threat in writing. Fox shields us from a lot of stuff. Fox really, they're a stopgap. A lot of the mail goes to the Broadcast Standards and Practices Department, and they look over it and they decide what's worth sending to us and what's not. I've never actually that's not true. There was one death threat, but it was so incoherent, the grammar was so bad. But for the most part, the one that comes to mind is every once in a while Fox will forward an angry letter just for laughs. There was something from the American Fascists Association. I think I remember it was like the Union of the American Fascist Association, the American Association of whatever the hell it was called, complaining about the language in the show. That there were too many uses of the word bitch and bastard and crap, and I guess thought behind it being that if Hitler were alive, he would not use such language. But that's, as far as an actual death threat, I've fortunately been, I've never actually seen one in writing. I'm sure they're on their way, though.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mike.
Hey, we found the weed guy.
Huh? I really enjoyed the Star Wars spoofs of Family Guy. I was just wondering, would you ever plan on doing anything else like a Family Guy episode of like a whole Back to the Future or Indiana Jones episode like that?
Not in the immediate future. No, the Star Wars episodes were so much work. It was like producing a movie at the same time that we were doing the show. It was exhausting. Maybe we would tackle Indiana Jones at some point, but I'd have to have a good long rest before that happened. But it's certainly possible. No immediate plans, though. I hate to tell you.
Hi, thank you for coming. I go to Berklee College of Music, and I'm a film score major, and I know that you work with Walter Murphy. So I was wondering if you had any advice for when I start my career.
Good question. That's a fun job, I tell you. If I was not doing what I was doing, oddly, that's kind of what I would want to be doing. It's the last of the remaining.
Can you please come to Berklee and sing for us? And I'll play bass for you. I'm a bass principal, so.
Okay, let me finish. No, I think, that's a hard one because that's not where my degree is.
I know, I'm kidding.
I have such love for film music. I think John Williams is one of the most brilliant composers ever to come out of, what is, in effect, classical music. But I don't know, I can only tell you what my own approach is. When I score the show, and as we get set to score the movie that I just did, it's my approach is, there seems to be a trend in film music that is going towards the area of reclusiveness. It's almost like the music has to stay out of the way of the action, and that's kind of sad to me when you think of all the great film scores that we associate with we all know the theme from the Pink Panther, but those movies are hard as hell to sit through. So it's almost like the music is more enduring than the movies themselves, and that's the case for a lot of films. And nowadays, you just you kind of get this kind of bed of kind of just even keel music that flows throughout movies, and I would love to see things shift back to the way they were when the composer actually had a had a real voice and was where the score was a character in the movie. Alfred Newman, who used to run the music department at Fox and wrote the theme for How the West Was Won, How to Marry a Millionaire, unbelievably talented composer. And he basically had control over his sessions. The director of the movie was not allowed to go onto the scoring stage unless Alfred Newman wanted him there, which is astonishing to me. And it tells you how things have changed. So I mean, my personal goal is to kind of tug us back to that place, at least with the stuff that I do. But as far as advice, I wish I could give you more than that, but I can't.
Today is my birthday. Can you just say happy birthday to me in Stewie's voice?
Look at the way you just took the conversation and turned it back onto yourself. Happy birthday.
Hi, my name's Alan. I'm a sophomore at the college. Humanism. Recently, in the last season of Family Guy, you had Humanism. Wasn't a joke. Just in relation to humanism. Recently, in the last season of Family Guy, you had Rush Limbaugh as a guest on your show. Obviously, not obviously, or if you've listened to what he has to say, he obviously has some things to say that I have to imagine you wouldn't agree with. My question is, not so much was he hard to work with, because I have to imagine he's very professional about what he does. He is a professional. But to bring yourself to a place where you felt comfortable working with Rush Limbaugh, what was that like? Did it take some convincing from other people to you? Were you excited to work with him?
It was something that made us all a little nervous and made us all a little bit fearful, which I think is always a good thing. He had done a voice as himself in this first Star Wars episode, Blue Harvest, that we did. And he was, we talked to him on the phone, and he was very cordial and very, he was really a very good actor, which I thought was interesting. He was a very good actor, and he we've had professional Hollywood actors who've come in to do the show who have not given us reads that were as good as what Rush Limbaugh gave us.
Yeah,
Make of that what you will, but he himself was it was odd because like he was. I disagree with just about everything the guy has ever said, but we got on just fine. I mean, like we had a fun time in the booth. You know, we didn't talk politics, but he's I don't know. You look at George Bush, I guess, as an example. Like he's a guy you'd want to have a beer with. You know what? Yeah, he is a guy you'd want to have a beer with. You wouldn't want him to do anything else, but you'd probably want to have a beer with him. Yeah, I'd have a beer with Rush. But I still don't like what that voice in the media. I'm not just talking about him. I'm talking about that corner of the media puts forth and what they present and how they present it and how persuasive they are. I don't like that. But it is a good example of the fact that these are two human beings in a room together. They can be civil, they can interact with each other, and it was fairly stress-free. I have had worse dealings with performers than Rush Limbaugh. Let me tell you that. He was. I mean, if I'm being completely objective here, he was as cordial and as friendly and as kind to me as anyone I've ever had in that booth. I disagree with, I can't stress that enough. I disagree with everything that he stands for politically, but, what can I say? We had fun.
Right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Jane. I'm just a huge fan of yours. And I have a really silly question. I've heard about your experience on September 11, and what kind of joke of the universe was that? Because if we lost you, I don't know what we're going to do.
I'm trying to place your dialect, and for the life of me, are you from where Balki was from? Where?
What?
Oh yeah, you're too young to get that reference.
No, I'm from Russia, but
okay, there we go. Oh,
yeah,
now I feel foolish.
If you ever need anyone in your show who has an accent like mine, just keep me in mind.
You're asking about how I process that event, and am I?
Well, yeah. What do you think? Like, was it meant to be like that, or because we don't believe in God and we think universe kind of, but still we think universe has some kind of plan for us, or what?
Yeah, we are significance junkies. Again, as I keep quoting Sagan, but he's quotable. We're significance junkies. We love to attach meaning to everything, even when there is no meaning, even when something is just a coincidence. And that's an example of something that really was a coincidence. I've missed a lot of flights for being late. I'm a chronically late person. This was one of many flights that I've missed for being late. And it was more fortunate that I missed this than the others. On every flight that takes off, I got to figure somebody's missing that flight. Not only that, but that morning when I walked to the car to go to the airport, how do I know that if I hadn't crossed the street 5 minutes later, I would have been hit by a car? If you bundle all that stuff together, statistically, it doesn't seem all that significant. It just seems more like something that really is a coincidence.
Hi, I'm Colin. I'm a sophomore in the class. I remember you made a reference to the image of Muhammad earlier. I was curious, with the South Park episode that depicted the Family Guy writing staff as a group of sea cows, was your writing staff at all mad about that? Did they talk to you at all before airing that?
No. That's. I mean, I don't know. If you dish it out, you got to take it. So, I mean, I thought they were. Their satirical point about the setups to our gags was actually pretty right on the money. We were getting kind of lazy with our, like just kind of going down this windy road to and that's legit. That was no, I thought that was a funny episode, and if you're making fun of something in the context of your show, no, all bets are off. They can do whatever they want. I thought it was great. Their conduct in the press when they themselves are speaking is maybe less than exemplary. Could be a little classier in my book, but that episode I thought was hilarious, and the only thing that I would say in correctively is that the cutaways, ironically, are the hardest things to write. To write comedy that is story based, that kind of just follows the storyline the story that you're telling, is a lot easier because you're kind of working off the same skeleton. To write cutaways and flashbacks, it's like you're doing sketch comedy, which really is a lot harder because you're starting from the ground up every 4 minutes or so. You have to have a premise and a microcosm of a beginning, middle, and end, setup, joke, payoff. So that would be the only thing that I would take issue with, is that the cutaways are actually, comedy that is unrelated to the story is the hardest thing, not the easiest thing to write. In the same way that, for Gary Larson, he had a really tough job when he did The Far Side because he couldn't rely on the same characters every week. He had to come up with a brand new idea every week. Again, that would be the only corrective statement I would make. But I thought that episode was funny.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Short. In line, I was thinking of a really, really cool humanist segue, and I think I got one. All right, so you were talking about, as humans, we should, push ourselves creatively, scientifically. Are there any times as an artist where, you see something like Charlie Sheen or Kesha, and you're like, that's just too easy. It's it's been done, it's too obvious, and you have to walk away, or does anything go?
I don't know. I'm thinking of changing the S in my first name to a $sign. Yeah, that's a legitimate question. Yeah, there was a lot of talk about that before the Charlie Sheen roast. That is this just like shooting ducks in a barrel? But they're fun. The roasts are so much fun. It's like a one-day gig. You go, you do it, and it's like a vacation. They're just fun. And after it's like working 364 weeks, or 360 days out of the year. It's fun. It's just like a night off. You go and you just hang around a bunch of funny people. You make a bunch of jokes. The person is in on it. He was great. Charlie was great. He sat there and was actually enjoying the comedy in a detached way. It is a legitimate question, but yeah, I don't know. For every joke about Benjamin Disraeli, there's a Kesha joke. I think there's room for all.
Hi, great to see you. My name's Kim Solomon. I didn't expect to think so much on a Saturday night, but for fear that you won't listen to me because I went to an undergrad that you might consider a safety school, I was in Dartmouth College's Multi-Faith Council, and a big emphasis on every single meeting was to take every single religion, or we had atheists and humanists, but to take everyone's ideas as equally valid. And jokes, which that's your thing, were really not accepted. It was
this sounds like a terrible place.
It was a great way to see what other people thought, but it was I guess you could say, way more PC. And since it's been about 20 seconds, I'll let you know that I do go to Harvard Law School, and we'd love you to come on November 11th to speak about the WGA negotiations, which I think is related to humanism. So let us know. You can answer them in whatever.
I'm not that smart, lady. I'd be a disappointment. Yeah, that's not. You don't have a question, do you? You're just asking me to come. Come do your lawyer thing. You're just asking me to come on the 11th. Yeah, no, I mean, again, I go back to the example of religious church-going friends that I have who I can make whatever joke I want. I can crack jokes about Jesus. I can say whatever I want, and they're fine because they're comfortable, they're secure in their beliefs, and they almost they a lot of them view it as a healthy challenge, you know, as a way to kind of stay sharp. And it goes both ways. I mean, like, I get plenty of jokes thrown my way about how I'm going to, you know, burn in hell for all eternity. So it's that to me is the healthiest way you can go about it. I mean, it's yeah, no, it should be open season. I mean, if you are having to censor yourself in a place like that, that should be very suspect, and you should talk to your superiors about that. We'll see. We'll see. Thank you very much, you guys. You guys have been great. Thanks.
Stephen Fry, I think you were right. Authentic genius indeed. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate seeing you. We'll see you here again on December 1st for Jodi Picoult with John Grant. That's going to be a great show. And join us on Sundays or in our student communities. So thank you very, very much, everybody.